Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first official HRB-TMRN START Competition Questions and Answers webinar. My name is Tom Conway, and I work at the HRB-TMRN. So for those of you new to the START competition, I might take a few minutes to explain the origins of the competition before I hand you over to Professor Declan Devane. So, does it help your fitness to have an event as a goal when you're training? Can cartoons and comics help children to achieve better results in tests? How would you even find out? START encourages primary school students to come up with interesting questions and to design and run trials to answer them in a scientific way. Professor Declan Devane and Dr. Sandra Galvin developed the competition, START, which stands for Schools Teaching Awareness of Randomized Trials, to celebrate International Clinical Trials Day on the 20th of May every year. So International Clinical Trials Day marks the anniversary of the first randomized clinical trial, which took place in 1747 in the British Navy. Here's a picture of James Lind. He was a Scottish doctor and he was a pioneer of naval hygiene in the Royal Navy. And he conducted one of the first ever clinical trials. So after 8 weeks at sea, and when scurvy began to take its toll on the crew, scurvy caused by a lack of fruit and veg and vitamin C, Lind decided to test his idea that the putrefaction of the body was caused by the disease could be prevented with acids. So he divided the 12 sick sailors into 6 pairs and provided them with the different supplements in their diet. So 2 of the sailors got cider, 2 of the sailors got vinegar, 2 of the sailors got seawater, 2 of the sailors got a mixture, 2 sailors got vitriolic elixir, and 2 of the sailors got 2 oranges and a lemon. And only the 2 sailors who took the fruit improved, even though the oranges and lemons ran out after 6 days. So Lind wrote that the most sudden and visible effects were perceived from the use of oranges and lemons. And from this trial, he was able to help the others recover in their conditions. So that's a quick recap of James Lind. And we here at the HRB-TMRN celebrate this important occasion with the help of you guys. We invite primary school students in 4th, 5th and 6th classes to lead on an exciting research project and create their very own fun randomized clinical trial. So before I hand you over to Declan, there's a short clip I'd like to play for you that captures the day.
Today we're celebrating International Clinical Trials Day, and we're doing so in NUI Galway as part of the HRB Trials Methodology Research Network. We've challenged primary school children to design their own randomised trial, and we've done that by inviting schools to participate in the START competition. And the START competition asks children and their teachers to identify a question that they think could be answered within the context of a clinical trial.
Our project was where we studied to see if maths games helped improve your maths test results.
Our project was about if teachers can influence what children do.
Our project was about if fidgeting impacts your concentration in a positive or a negative way.
Everybody knows that exercise is great for your health. There are school campaigns targeting fitness levels. Operation Transformation is a TV show that promotes getting active while enjoying themselves for 10 minutes daily. So this got us wondering if as little as 10 minutes exercise daily could actually have an effect on our fitness levels. And does our general perception of exercise change?
Some of the students that have taken part in this are going to be the scientists of tomorrow. but all of them are going to be the citizens of tomorrow, and it's so important that all of us understand something about evidence, so that can help us when we're making choices about health.
They're getting them to talk about the work they've done, but also getting them to highlight to us their knowledge about trials and how they've taken that knowledge forward and how it's going to influence what they say to their families, their peers, their other classrooms.
It allows us as teachers to deliver elements of the curriculum that would be quite difficult for us to do in a structured way on our own. In particular, allows us to access health information as part of the social, personal and health education curriculum.
The single most important message to take home from today is that you 4 schools are already winners. You 4 schools have been ranked amongst the best of all the entries we had, and that's why you're here today. So first, second, third place, doesn't really matter, you're all winners.
Because the competition had such a high quality this year, the judges found it very hard to pick between the 2 schools that were jousting for third place. They have agreed to put 2 schools joint third place. So in no particular order, the first school is St Michael's Castlefarrell. The other school in third place was Mean Toes from Killarney and Kerry. So now we come to second place. That's a guess who got first place. The effective fidgeting and concentration by St Joseph's from Kinvara.
It's important because the people who are taking part in the start are the future. They're the public, they're the patients, they're the trial methodologists, they're the researchers. They are simply the future.
So that was a clip of last year's start day. So our host is online and I'm going to give you a brief intro before I pass it over to him. So Declan trained as a nurse and a midwife, and he meandered his way into trial methodology, and his work now focuses on a blend across midwifery, randomized trials, and how they are done, and synthesizing evidence. He holds the chair in midwifery, and he is the Deputy Dean of the College of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences, NUI Galway, and he is also the Scientific Director of the HRB-TMRN, Director of Cochrane Ireland, and Director of Evidence Synthesis Ireland. So he's got quite a CV. And before I hand over to him also, I know we have a few principals and classes watching. So if anyone has any questions for us that we haven't been asking, please feel free to write them into the chat box or the Q&A box, and I'll pick up on them, and I'll ask Declan your questions for you. So I will now hand over to Declan.
So thank you very much, Tom. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you fine.
Okay. So hi, everybody. Really delighted to have an opportunity to perhaps interact with you guys and to answer any questions that the teachers or indeed your pupils have about the START program. As Tom has given a very nice introduction into the whole START competition, and perhaps if I can just say the reason that we think the START program is important is that we all as citizens are faced with the decisions every day about whether we should, for example, take a particular treatment, or whether we should, for example, does wearing your coat inside actually make it not work as well when you wear it outside? So all these fun questions that the children are coming up with, but they have a serious implication also because of all the claims that you hear in the media, in the newspapers, on Facebook, on the internet, etc., claiming that something causes, for example, some bad disease, or hearing that a particular, for example, there's lots of things many years ago that eating burnt toast might actually cause cancer, so something quite serious. So what we want to be able to do is help people to set up a piece of to study to identify whether something really works. What's the credibility of it? Does something really work? And the best way to evaluate whether something actually works is through something called a fair comparison. And a fair comparison we call a randomized trial. And this START program is built around that trial, comparing something with something else in a randomized manner. And we can go through that later on if you want to any more detail, but I'll stop there because I could talk forever, and I'll hand over to Tom maybe, or to the Q&A chat session to answer your specific questions.
Thanks, Declan. So you've answered one of the main questions that we get, what is a trial there? We were asked quite a lot there recently, what kind of question can we ask, and does it have to be a science question?
Okay, so that's a really interesting question. What is the question is that we're trying to encourage classes and students to ask is about how good or bad or what impact does something have. So it doesn't have to be a science related question, but it has to be capable of being answered within a scientific process. And this scientific process is this trial. So the question could be anything. So some examples that we've had in the past, for example, does music affect your concentration? Other examples include, does fidgeting affect your concentration? So, and there are lots of other examples like that. Does eating an apple a day actually keep the doctor away? So the common theme amongst those types of questions are that they're focusing in on the effects of something. So does something cause something else? They're the best type of questions because they're the kind of questions that can be answered in a trial. They can also be simple questions like, so for example, we've had other people submit questions in the past. Does homework affect your mental well-being or your mood? And that particular school, they randomly allocated, which means putting people into two groups. One group got homework and the other group didn't for a full week. And then they looked at the outcome on children's mood, children's mental well-being. How did they feel about that in both groups, and compared the answers across both of those groups. One really important piece of a randomized trial is that you want to make sure that both groups of people are similar. So similar ages, equal mixture of children's abilities, for example, equal mixture of all the other things that could affect people's mood or attitude to homework. And the best way of creating two groups with similar people in them is to randomly allocate them to the two groups. And randomly allocating people sounds really complex, but it's actually quite straightforward. Where you just, for example, you could put all the names of children into a hat and pick out the names randomly, which group would get homework and which group wouldn't. And at the end of that, if you do that in that way, with a large enough number of students, you will have similar students in both groups in terms of ability, in terms of ages, in terms of motivation for homework, etc. And that's one of the key differences between a randomized trial and other forms of research.
Thank you, Declan. We have a question from Joanne. So they are currently taking part in the ESB Science Blast and are wondering if perhaps they could use the same question for this competition, or would they need to use a new project?
That's a very good question. So we don't mind if a class have created a project and entered it into another competition and want to enter the START competition with the same project. That's absolutely fine with us. One key thing is though that one of the criteria we judge the entries is how close do the entries match each step of the trial process. And we have each of those steps mapped out on our website for the teachers, Joanne, and our classes to use to make sure that the project matches in with each step. Certainly the winning entries would be very closely aligned with each step of the process. That may or may not suit the project you currently have, or it may need some tweaking, for example, but certainly it's worth exploring, looking, can you avoid duplication and make best use of the work you and your class have already done.
Thank you, Declan. So the next question that we get quite a lot is from the students is, what do we win?
What do you win? Well, in the first year of this competition, we thought that we asked teachers and students what did they want to win, and they felt it was important to get a substantial plaque or trophy for the school. So we do give a trophy to the first, second, and third placed schools. But it turns out that that's really important, but it turns out that the students have told us that they prefer the other things that go on. And the other things that go on is that the 3 shortlisted schools are invited to INUI Galway on, Tom will confirm the date in a minute, I think it's May the 17th or 19th, Tom?
Friday the 17th of May is our awards day.
Okay, so yeah, the students, the 3 shortlisted entries are invited to INUI Galway on that day, and we will provide, and working with your teachers, we will provide buses to take you from your schools to INUI Galway. We put on a really nice day. We think we put on a whole series of workshops, science-oriented workshops. We provide some really nice food for you on the day and a few treats. And when we've asked the students what they enjoyed most of the START program, coming to Galway for that day has gone down a real treat. Because it's quite interactive, fun. There's a lot of people there from the university, and a lot of the university staff across all walks of life in the university come out to lend their support and provide workshops that might be a little bit more difficult to get access to outside of the competition. So in summary, what you win is the trophy and the day in INUI Galway, and I guess also perhaps the fun of actually taking part in it.
That's great, Declan. Thank you. So now we have a few questions from, if you want, a few questions from teachers that we've had in the last 2 weeks. One of them is, what can the children expect to learn from taking part in the competition?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it does hit on a lot of the key aspects of your school's current curriculum, like math, science, SPHE, indeed visual arts, because there's no restrictions in the format in which the findings of the study can be presented. So students have been very creative in how they presented results. So we've had everything ranging from a drama recorded to a diary, to a PowerPoint presentation, to things like a sway presentation I've never heard of, to a website, to audio recordings, to videos, to graph reports, etc. So the children's creativity has been fantastic in how they describe the results. A key part of the learning for us is around the science component. In all walks of life, whatever walk of life the children may choose to go into, how to make a fair comparison between one thing and another is a critical skill that we think every citizen should have to enable them to take informed health choices. So quite significant decisions, like, for example, should I offer or take a particular vaccination? What's the evidence base underpinning that? So it's teaching the children how to critically assess the claims that are made, so that to enable them to make informed health choices, we think is transferable to any walk of life the children go into. And it's quite remarkable how we see the lesson for us and the university has been how fantastically well the children with the support of teachers have been able to engage, which is often quite a complex research design. But certainly the entries that have been shortlisted over the last few years have been blown our minds away in terms of children's ability to make these fair comparisons and to evaluate the effects of an intervention, such as that music, the fruit, exercise, doodling, fidgeting, etc. So all these fun questions.
Thank you, Declan. One of the other questions we got is, if the teacher has questions, who can I contact?
So we have a number of people working with us on a volunteer basis who will be very happy to provide advice as to whether your question is suitable for the competition, or if you want to just sense check the question with any of us, we'd be very happy to be contacted through the main HRB-TMRN website, which has a a link there to start the competition. You can ask us questions to that, or indeed you can use Twitter. We're quite active on Twitter, as I know a number of schools are. So we're happy to take any questions in lots of different formats, and just to provide any advice we can and encouragement along the way.
And do I have to know about trials to take part in START?
No, you don't have to know about trials to take part in START at all. Most people who take part in START don't know very much about trials starting off. But through the START process of identifying what your question is and working through each step, we find at the end of the process, those children and school classes who've taken part do end up knowing quite a bit about the major principles of conducting a trial.
And I think our last question, how can we submit our findings?
So you can submit, you have to submit your findings directly to the HRB-TMRN, but as I mentioned, we've taken them in all different formats. So we have had a box delivered with various creative craft work that was displaying the results of a particular project around mental health well-being. We've had email links, web links sent in to us. We've had USB stick CDs. We've had videos. So we are open to working with schools to make sure that you can submit your entry easily. We have the START website has got all the information about where to submit it to, but we certainly will accept the findings in any format. And indeed, that's really one of the strengths of the competition, has been allowing the children to be as creative as possible in how they present their findings, because quite frankly, it's well known in the professional literature that as researchers, we don't do a very good job of how we explain our findings to the public, and indeed to clinicians and researchers, for example. So we could learn a lot indeed from children and how they present findings more creatively.
Thank you very much, Declan. Also, a question before that came up recently was in terms of travel expenses on the day of the competition.
Okay, so from the children obviously don't need to worry about this, guys, but the teachers, just to emphasize that, so we cover all of the expenses associated with the day. We will work with a short list of schools to identify perhaps your local transport bus providers whom you know and usually have a relationship with, but we then will look after the payment of those individuals, and we'll put on lunch, etc. We will also be looking after, obviously the classes will be accompanied by the teachers, but we have a lot of volunteers helping us out on the day. So the venue is quite secure and quite safe. And we have worked with a number of teachers in, for example, preparing things like the menu and what children get on arrival. But just to reassure the children that there are treats for you, you will be treated. The shortest schools do get a nice day, including some treats.
Thank you for that, Declan. I think that's about the main questions. Neve has just posted they don't have any questions, but they are listening actively, so that's good to know.
Neve, I just see that there from the Presentation Senior School in Mullingar. So welcome, guys. And we also have Joanne in Newtown with her 5th and 6th class. Excellent.
So I think they are all, welcome to them all, and I hope they enjoyed the session. We're hoping to aim at having, they're delighted to be mentioned. We're hoping to make this Q&A monthly webinar with different people from the HRB-TMRN answering questions. So if anyone that is listening or watching has questions after it's over, just again email us at hrb-tmrn@nuigalway.ie or tweet us at @startschools, and that is capital S, capital T, capital A, capital R, capital T, capital S, and then underscore CHOOLS. Or just go to our website, which is www.hrb-tmrn.ie. And on that website, you'll find all the materials you need to take part. And just again to repeat, the deadline for submitting your project to us is April the 12th. The successful schools will be notified on April 29th, and then we'll have our big extravaganza awards day here in the university on Friday the 17th of May. So Thank you again, Declan, unless you've anything you'd like to add.
I might just say that we will probably hold another one of these at the end of this month, and we let all your teachers know we're doing so. And but by that point, some of you may have started your projects already, probably will have if you haven't started already, and you may have questions then that are arising as part of you working your way through the project, and we'd be happy to obviously try to answer those for you.
Perfect.
So
thank you again, Declan, and thank you to everyone who posed the questions. Thank you to Presentation Senior School in Mullingar, and also thank you to Newtown National School in Roscommon. So with that, I will close the session. We will put this session online, so if people would like to listen back to it, we can. You'll be able to find it on YouTube, and we'll put it up on Twitter and all these places. So again,
and Tom, one last thing. It was just really helpful for us guys, particularly the children who are there. Would really be keen to hear how you found interacting in one of these sessions. So if you get a chance to let us know, that'd be fantastic. But thank you very much.
Yeah, any feedback is always greatly, we appreciate it greatly. Again, thanks very much, guys. Thanks, Declan, and hopefully see you again in a month's time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.